Canadian Prime Minister visits Kyiv today. Canada stands with Ukraine. This is what we're gonna talk about. Hello there, I'm Olena. This is my political channel Enough. Welcome. And Canadian Prime Minister is my Prime Minister, so my country, Canada, supporting Ukraine. And my Prime Minister right now in Kyiv, talked to Ukrainian President Zelenskyy. And I'll give you a quick update on that. And what I wanted from my Prime Minister, I'll tell you. And about my relationship with my Prime Minister. And also about what Canada is doing for Ukraine. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Minister of Finance Freeland visited Kyiv today with a surprise visit, I would say. They met with President of Ukraine, Mr. Zelenskyy, and his First Lady, Olena Zelenska. Also, they had a speech, Trudeau had a speech in Verkhovna Rada, Parliament of Ukraine, and visited injured Ukrainian soldiers. This is what I'll briefly will talk about today.
Look at this. 2-3 times in 2 weeks. We're lucky to see each other.
Look at this warm welcome.
We will be there with as much as it takes, for as long as it takes, whether it's just the continuing impact of Russia's brutal invasion, whether it's the effect of the dam breaking on a terrible time and impacting so many people. We will continue to be there as we always are.
They're great. Thank you very much. We're really thankful for everything you did for us, for our people, refugees, and for our army. I appreciate your own support. Thank you so much. People of Canada, and of course to all your team, to the government and parliament. Really, it's so necessary help. You are with us from first days of full-scale war. Thank you very much.
President Zelenskyy thanks Canadian Prime Minister, and they had very warm meeting. I'm glad that my country is supporting the right thing. I know how Canadians are helping refugees. I'm also supporting Ukrainian refugees and helping them out. And so is the group Kelowna Stands with Ukraine, which I support as well. And we help in Ukraine as much as we can. And this is what Trudeau said in Ukrainian Parliament. And look at that Canadian flag and how Ukrainian Parliament is welcoming my Prime Minister.
And we will continue to support Ukraine becoming a NATO member as soon as conditions allow.
Bravo, Canada. I agree with what my Prime Minister just said. This is Canadian Prime Minister visiting wounded soldiers in Ukraine. Since I already incriminated myself enough, and in Russia I probably facing lifetime in jail anyway, I might as well read to you a piece of my letter to Canadian Prime Minister, which I wrote on February 25th, 2022. Because of the first day of full-scale invasion of Russia into Ukraine on February 24th, I talked to my Member of Parliament, Mel Arnold, and I gave him the same facts and information, and he promised me that he will go to Ottawa and make my voice heard. But the next day I wrote to Prime Minister myself. Dear sir, I'm deeply upset about the war that Russia started in Ukraine. I understand how Russians think and can help explain what might be the best bet to stop the war quickly and without sending troops. Why should Canada care? Because Putin is a corrupt dictator and will stop at nothing, even starting World War III, to remain in power. His very life depends on it. Putin bombed Chechnya into the ground and kept it inside Russia against the will of Chechen people. Putin occupied Georgian territories, Abkhazia and South Ossetia. Putin has been destabilizing Ukraine for roughly 8 years. He annexed Republic of Crimea into Russia illegally. Putin's government is actively paying Russian cyber trolls to push online propaganda to other countries and interfere with their elections. In Syria, Putin's army bombed civilians and propped up the al-Assad regime. Putin already has troops in Kazakhstan to put down pro-democracy protests. The Russian government is bribing foreign politicians to destabilize their own countries. So far, Putin has gotten away with all of it. This is because no one wants to start the war over some country they can't even find on the map. No actions from the free world has taught Putin that he can continue to get away with anything, even on international arena. What, in my opinion, needs to be done? Number one, Putin's corrupt regime needs to be stopped immediately. Putin will not stop advancing. So far, he has gotten away with everything. For now, Russians are shocked and not on board with this war. But soon enough, Putin will brainwash them into supporting him. Second, immediately put targeted sanctions specifically on President Putin, his family members, friends, and other Russian oligarchs, and their businesses and associates. Confiscate and sell their assets and property in Canada. Deport their relatives and friends from Canada. Number 3, ban Russian state propaganda tool Russia Today. Number 4, revoke Canadian ambassador from Russia. Thank you. So this is the letter I wrote to my Prime Minister, and basically the same day, many of the sanctions I proposed were implemented. And actually Russia Today was banned, for example. Unfortunately, the Russian ambassador wasn't kicked out of Canada, but it's all in the future. And I was glad that my country listens to what I have to say. And, well, this is basically what I said. And now I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what Canada do to support Ukraine. How Canada support Ukraine? In my opinion, one of the most important things we need to know about Canadian-Ukrainian relationship is that on December 2nd, 1991, Canada became the first Western country to recognize Ukraine's independence. And ever since, Canada and Ukraine had a close relationship. And our relationship is strengthened by warm people-to-people ties rooted in Ukrainian-Canadian community of 1.3 million people. Yes, Canadian community, Ukrainian community in Canada is very strong, and that is why also support of Ukraine in Canada is very strong. And Canadian response to the illegal invasion and annexation of Crimea was very straightforward. Canada did not and will not recognize Russian annexed territories, neither Crimea in the past nor any all that new annexed territories. And we continue to support Ukrainian sovereignty and territorial integrity in the face of Russia's illegal occupation of Crimea and its support for insurgents in eastern Ukraine. Also, sanctions were imposed, and Canada has imposed sanctions against hundreds of Russian and Ukrainian individuals, which you can see on this website, which I will provide. There are also trade relations. And in 2022, Canada's merchandise export to Ukraine totaled 150.2 million, and merchandise import from Ukraine totaled 271.2 million, and so on. So if you're interested, you can read this yourself. There was also military cooperation when Canadian armed forces was training people in Ukraine and so on. And also police, peace and stabilization operation programs, international police peacekeeping, and so on. But I want to point out more about Canadian donations and military support to Ukraine because many people don't know about it. I could say that one of the most important things was also that one of my propositions was not just froze the assets of Russian oligarchs and so on in Canada, but seize them. And Canada was one of the first countries who did it. After one country does it, then it's easier to other countries to do the same thing. And Canada did it. So Canada was one of the first, if not the first. Military donations. Since February 2022, Canada has committed over $1 billion in military assistance to Ukraine. and lots of other things. So operational support, training, military donations, and that's just, you could see here, March 15th, delivered new donations of 12 air defense missiles, and lots of other things. Also Leopard tanks, and so on. So you can see it in here. I'll give you the links. Canada stands with Ukraine. I want everybody to know that, and I stand with Ukraine as well. We will not allow any dictator in the world to dictate the whole world what to do and how to live. Canada is a free country, and we support freedom of Ukraine. Thank you for watching. Have a great day or evening, and see you later.